Okay, I think we're all set up. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, July 18th, and I am Christina Dillabo, Director of Communications for the Desert Southwest Conference. And you're either participating in or watching the recording of Tuesday Talks, a weekly gathering with church communicators. And I was excited to introduce to you who Molly Shannon is, our new archivist. But sadly, all I can do is show you her picture. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let's see here. Here she is. This is Molly Shannon. And she's going to be both the conference archivist, or she is the conference archivist and the communications assistant. And so she's into storytelling. That's part of what got her excited about becoming an archivist to begin with, just learning all the history of her own family as a child. And as she got older, she found herself wanting to know more and more about her family history and visiting historical sites. And so she was one of the lucky people that grew up knowing what she wanted to be. She didn't directly go in that direction, but eventually she circled back. And so she has her Bachelor of Arts in History and minor in Political Science. She's currently working towards getting her Master's in Library and Information Science with a graduate certificate in Archival Studies at Louisiana State. Molly's just been a pleasure to get to know. Today's only her second day, and she is a dedicated staff person. Full of ideas on how to make archives exciting, how to make history storytelling for today that can impact your church's future. How weird is that? But to me, it sounds weird because archives and history isn't my passion. I love a good book, but she's got so many ideas. I can't wait for you all to get to know her. And she and I were talking about, both for the communication side and for archives, that we are going to start visiting every single one of our churches in the Desert Southwest Conference, not as a check-in to see how are you doing, we're going to grade you, not like that, but just as a reminder. Many churches don't know that both communications and archives exists in the Desert Southwest Conference or in the United Methodist Church. Almost just as importantly about telling the story and history of the United Methodist Church, but also to be a resource for our churches. So there might be things that you're wanting training for XYZ, you're struggling with something, or there could be some things that your church is doing just impeccably well or at a great level, but paying very minimal. So we want to know about that so that we can share the wealth of ideas with other churches. So when we visit your church, when we do visit your church, part of what we're going to be doing is reviewing your church's archives. How are you storing them? What are you storing? Both archives to prepare for eventually turning them into the conference archives, or archives that for your own church management. One of the things that I often see is bank records are kept for many, many years, and in some cases for decades, when that's not really what you need to do. So we're going to touch base with every one of our churches to see what records you're saving, for how long you're saving them, and provide you kind of a cheat sheet so you know at a glance when you can shred those bank statements, or what you should have as, okay, this is our church's archives, but at one point, these are the things that we're going to want to turn into the conference archives. There's things like personal papers that people aren't even aware of that could be turned into the conference archives. And those would be personal papers from clergy, or if your church has a deacon or deaconess, things like that. So we'll get into that when we visit with you. But if you're interested in being one of the churches that we visit right off the bat, then be sure to send me an email, cdillabo@dscumc.org, or even easier, you could email archives@dscumc.org to either request support or a visit. Part of what we'll do is do the archives thing, but I'm also going to want to know about your church. What are the ministries that you're most proud of? How are you impacting your community? So that, we can help create some publicity about your church, tell the story, and just have people know about how amazing the United Methodist Church is in your community. So with that said, one of the inquiries I received recently was from a reporter who was wanting to know, what are the United Methodist churches doing? I mean, with the heat the way it is right now, this reporter is not even from Arizona. They're actually from Texas, but so we're not the only ones experiencing heat. But I wanted to know, what are the actions that our churches are doing to help with that? And it's okay if you don't have anything going on. Many churches don't hardly have any staff or aren't open every day. But if anybody wants to share, here's what we do when the heat turns up, even if it's just, we change our office hours. I'm curious. Let's do a round robin. And what we'll do is I'll pick someone, you state your name and your church, and tell us what happens differently when the heat goes up. And then when you're done, go ahead and pick someone else, and then they'll share. And if the person that you pick doesn't do anything different, you can just say, I'm Christina Dilbo, I'm from XYZ Church, and it doesn't matter what the temperature is, business as usual, we keep going. So I'm going to pick somebody else. Okay, that way everybody gets a turn. I also am curious about, if you do something for heat, what do you do to publicize that we're this church and this is what we make available? So I'm going to start with Jim Trescott. Go ahead.
I'm Jim Trescott. I'm from the Mission Valley United Methodist Church in Glendale. We don't do that much different with our office hours or anything. We try and limit use at midday in some of our classrooms, but that's just because of heat and air conditioning concerns. We've been trying to support Justice Center with water donations. So that's really about the only next thing. So Megan, why don't you go next?
Hey all, I'm Megan from St. Paul's United Methodist down in Tucson. We don't do a lot different church-wise for the heat, but I am trying to reach out to the city and county to find out how we can become a cooling center, and really what that entails. I have not heard back from our local, I've emailed who I'm supposed to email. I have not heard back. It's been well over a month, so I might try it again. But because we don't have any cooling centers in Tucson on the east side of town. And so I kind of went, well, we've got plenty of campus and plenty of space. Why not? Other than that, we just hope that our cool little window air conditioners in our office aren't going to die. Chris, I'll popcorn to you.
I'm Chris Krager. I'm from Dayspring UMC in Tempe and Arcadia. To be completely honest, I feel like it's Arizona, it's summer, it's not like unbelievably different from usual. It always gets hot here. So I would say the biggest things that we do, we have programmable thermostats that we just kind of change up a little bit. Our office hours are still we're hybrid, so we don't have a lot of in-office hours anyway. And then like Jim, we're supporting Tempe Community Action Agency. We're doing a food and water drive this upcoming Sunday. Let's see, Jessica.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, good morning. I'm Jessica from Velda Rose in Mesa. We don't do anything specific either. The maintenance crew does change their hours. They'll probably be doing that soon to come in earlier and leave earlier, which makes sense. Our community, this area here, we have a lot of people seeking financial aid, homeless people. So we actually just supply a lot of cold water. People come in seeking help, or they just come in and say, do you guys have water? And so we try to keep that in stock. Otherwise, we don't really do anything else at this time. Sherry.
Hi, hang on one second. we support the Granite Creek Ministry that meets every Saturday. It's part of a homeless nutrition thing that we do within the church. Has been going on now for, I think, 5 years. I can't remember exactly now, but again, it doesn't get as hot up here. I mean, it's not to say that it's not hot. It's that, but it's not, you know, we're in our 90s and that's really hot for here. Anyway, so that's something that we do, just providing water and food, but that's an ongoing all the time. So different than being in Phoenix, where you really have to address more of the water issue and things down there. So that's probably the biggest thing that we do toward that. We just make sure that our church is so great about all the donations for that. It's every Saturday, and whether it's rain, shine, and wherever it is, sometimes it's within the fellowship hall, and sometimes it's in the park, wherever we need to be able to do that. Thanks.
So you want to pick to go next?
Would have been great if I hadn't muted myself there, wouldn't it? So Jerry, if you're there.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was having trouble with my microphone before, so I wasn't sure. Prescott Valley, United Methodist Church, and we really don't do anything different. We haven't had office hours in the afternoon, but we haven't had that in a long time. So pretty much everything else is the same. Oh, how about Paul?
Hi, Paul Gomez from Red Mountain United Methodist Church in Mesa. And really the only thing that changes is we get ready for our Arts Edge camp and our VBS camp for our youth and our young kids. And the most important thing is keeping them hydrated and their parents. So it's kind of all I know that we do it differently. And if Julie wants to go, pass it to her.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Julie O'Neill, and I attend Dayspring. And so Chris has shared a lot of what the church does there. But I also work at the conference office, and we still do a lot of hybrid meetings. We have some in person with Bishop Rappanute here, but for the most part, that's what we do. And I invite Carla.
So I'm Carla Whitmire from Dove of the Desert. Recently, I only just joined there, so I don't know a lot of what they did. And I'm even going to throw it out. I haven't been around because now that I'm retired, I'm on vacation. So I am not aware of anything that they do. I know that, you know, one of the things that they really push is the hydration, and we have water available for during worship times, and we do other programs throughout the year to help keep people out of the heat, off the streets and stuff. So back to you, Christina.
Well, thank you, everybody. I took down a bunch of notes. So I'll find out more about what else is available. I like your thinking, Megan. Instantly, when you were saying you're trying to find out what your church would need to do to become a cooling station, I'm like, that's an article. I need to get that published. So if you hear anything, if you don't mind, forward it to me, connect with me. We'll get an article published. I'll see here in the Phoenix area. I'll see what's possible. I had just seen an article from Justice Center, which I know many of our churches support. And they, in addition to providing water, they have a cooling center. They are a cooling center. So homeless can come in and just cool off. And they're all kinds of a resource center. So it's a great organization to support. And I love that, many of our churches, that's what we do is, we don't all have huge facilities or amazing air-conditioned facilities, tons of staff or volunteers available. And so we find a way to make a difference. And sometimes that's creating a strong partnership with another organization that's their business, is to resource for those times, or, so we donate towards them, we provide water bottles or provide volunteers. And I think that's another thing that our churches do, is we provide volunteers for organizations that do that type of work. So that's all amazing. Thank you. I am curious also about Publicity for Vacation Bible School. And I know some of our churches don't have a youth program or children's Sunday school, and yet some of those churches still have a VBS program in the summer. So this time, how about if people want to go around and share, here's how we publicize, raise your hand so that you can be called next. So I'm going to ask someone. Perfect. Megan Swanson, raise your hand. Go ahead. How do you publicize VBS?
I'm going to go first because I have a staff meeting starting in about 15 minutes. So I just want to make sure this was the thing I was excited to be on the meeting for. So our VBS is the first week of summer after Memorial Day. So in all of our kids get out of school the Thursday before Memorial Day. We take the week of Memorial Day and prepare, and then we are first. So we start publicizing our VBS in March, like the first week of March is when registration opens. I can't stand it, but when my kids got into school and I had to figure out summer activities for them, if you can't wait till May because everything's booked by then. It's bonkers. We also have some large, almost mega churches around us, so that also have their VBS at the same time, and so that was how we did it. We put out on Facebook, and I usually put something out on Instagram. It is on our website. It is in our weekly email, in our bulletin. It goes out to our preschool because we have a preschool on our campus. It goes out to our Upward sports families. And then it will go out in, I think she put it out to, we are part of Nextdoor, that neighborhood app. We've got a thing on there. So I think our family ministries person put it on there. They'll put it into, there's a called a Macaroni Kids newsletter that you can sign up for as parents, that it'll go out there. It goes everywhere. Now, I will say that this year we did not get back to pre-pandemic levels in VBS, but we had a fairly decent turnout. I haven't seen exactly how many kids we had this year, but it was good. But I do know that our church, and me especially since I'm in charge of the communications, I get sick and tired of having to put in the same VBS announcement week for 8 to 12 weeks. It's exhausting, and I know people aren't reading it after a while. So I try really hard to change it up, but I've also been putting together a timeline so that we can do like the volunteer ask before we have people start registering, so that it's not just this consistent trying to beg for volunteers up until the week before, because we do every single year and it's frustrating, but that's what we do. And Facebook is great because if you have a business page, you can schedule out your stuff. And if you don't already have Canva for nonprofits, it's free, so do it. It has been amazing.
Before we go to Carla, Megan, do you have that list of your schedule? Like, here's what we publicize on this week, and that you could share that maybe.
It's not in list form. I've started using Asana for some project management stuff.
Mhm.
And it's really just, let's see, I can go into it real quick and see when I wanted to start. It's really, I call it my large event marketing, because we've got a fair amount of larger events that we do that all of a sudden it's like, crap, we don't have enough volunteers and we need this. And I'm like, this is why we should ask this before, because we've had to cancel things because we don't have the volunteers. And then people get upset about it. And it's like, well, we need to make sure we have volunteers before we announce that we're having it. But for example, VBS, I wanted to start VBS volunteer announcements first week of February. So before Lent even started, because since we opened up registration the first week of March, I wanted to make sure that we had that core group. Now, did we, by the time we opened registration? No, not at all. My family ministries director was like, nope, we're going to go ahead and keep doing it, and it'll happen. It'll be fine. But yeah, so I start about a month before we open registration or announce it. And then I have to create a registration form every year for it. So about 2 weeks before registration starts, I create the form. And then I start announcing it about the week after registration has officially opened, to the public.
Okay, great. And that makes sense that you publicize it every week, because, especially let's say the church bulletin or the newsletter, somebody might not have gone to church the one week that it was publicized. So, and you never know when you have new attendees. So that's great. And sometimes, we hang on to something like, oh yeah, I'm gonna volunteer, but I don't have time right now. I'll do it later. And then you forget. And so then you see the reminder again next week, like, oh my gosh, yes, I need to register. So yeah, many great reasons to advertise weekly, as tedious as it is. Thanks, Megan. All right, Carla, you're next.
Sorry, I wasn't getting unmuted. So really, I just have a comment about something Megan said, because she said it really quick and I think it bears repeating. And she said, that because they have an early summer VBS, they need to start advertising in March. But I think even if you have a late summer or midsummer, you still need to advertise, because you want your people that you're going to get to volunteer to save that date and not be gone on vacation. And as parents are planning other activities for their kids during the summer, you want them to save that week. So just because it's not an early VBS doesn't mean that you shouldn't start advertising it in March to let people know and keep it on their calendar.
I will say this too, a lot of what we've run into here at St. Paul's and in my own personal life is that half day is not helpful as a parent, because I work. Now, granted, I only work till 2 and I'm on the church campus, so it's not that big of a deal. And my kids are older and I have family that can help pick up kids when I am working. But we running into this with the preschool as well, that a half day program is not helpful. So if this is geared as this is a cheap, easy thing for your kids to do this summer, that's totally fine. But if anybody's noticing kind of a downtrend, you might want to see what we've done in the past is partnered up with different groups around town that have some sort of summer program, and they do an afternoon portion after VBS. So one year pre-pandemic, we have a circus group in town, and so they did circus camp. Granted, we have a large basketball gym, so we had the space for it, but that extended out the time from like 9 in the morning to like 3:30 in the afternoon. So it was a little bit more of that full day stuff. But that's one of the big changes that I think people are sometimes forget about. So.
Thanks, Megan. And I know for some churches, if you have like a preschool on campus, a lot of times the preschool might do their own summer program. So maybe coordinating with them, because maybe the church can't do it all day. So the church could do it in the morning and the preschool afternoon, or vice versa. And it doesn't even necessarily, and at our church years ago, we would have VBS and it wasn't all day, but the preschool was doing afternoon one. It was I think they called it extended stay or something. So they had their own summer program, but on top of that, when we had VBS, they would offer, thanks Megan, they'd offer extended stay. And so that it was VBS for like $10 and then whatever they charged for extended stay. So not all kids stayed, but many did. So that was also a help for the preschool. All right. Anybody else have something to share? Okay, well, if you aren't already doing it, another one to do is to reach out to your local news. If you don't have the media contacts for your area, let me know. They are posted on the dscumc.org/communications webpage. If you scroll all the way to the bottom in the resources, there's a download there for your media list. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I wasn't going to raise my hand because we do pretty much the same schedule as Megan. But the one thing that I wanted to suggest is we always, at the very last day, like one of the very last things that we do is announce the theme for the next year. So it's almost like a dentist appointment where like you don't leave the dentist before they schedule your next cleaning. So we like get the dates out and we get the theme out and try and get everybody excited about the next year. But other than that, yeah, I mean, our registration opens to returning campers on March 1st. And so we start in January.
Do you do a priority then for the returning campers? Mm-hmm. They get notified first? Oh, nice.
Yep.
That's a
So
good
everybody
idea.
gets notified, but they
Mhm.
get priority registration. So,
Oh, okay.
which, you know,
Very nice. Yeah, so if any of you that are parents, I remember when I'd love to hear what areas you would check if you were looking for summer programs for your kids. Nextdoor was a great one. Of course, Facebook you would check. But I can't remember for the life of me, but I've got 3 kids that are in college now. And I do remember checking as early as February to work out the summer plans because, then we could plan our summer trip if we were going to take a trip. I definitely wouldn't want to schedule it when there was something cool that the kids could do. So yeah, you're looking way early in the year, never too early. And that's a great reminder, Chris, for VBS or any event that you have of your church. If you get people to your campus to attend, that's one of the best times to let them know. And here's what else you can do, because it's fresh in their mind what a great time they had, what a nice campus this is. And so you start building this relationship, and where, especially for those that are not already members at your church, those are the ones that you really want to keep them on that hook. So great reminder, Chris. Thank you. Go ahead, Sherry.
Because someone asked the question the other day that we had talked about during our commission meeting, and when I got back with her, one of the things I suggested to her was, because there's people moving to Arizona all the time, even in the summertime. If you get connected with some realtors that are willing to work with you and letting you know when kids are coming into the area, they're wanting to meet friends, they're wanting to meet other people, where you can drop off flyers to the realtors and letting them know that you've got a program that maybe when they're moving to the area, hype it up with a realtor, helping them understand it's a resource for them to be able to hand out too. So thinking outside the box and thinking about other places where kids are coming in like that may be brand new, that need friends, that need, want to get interested into the area. One of the things our church has done is to really think, different kinds of programs. We've been very blessed in many ways that one of the ladies teaches ukulele, and last summer they provided an ukulele for each kid that wanted to learn how to be able to play it. And so it was a bigger marketing piece to that. And, one of the things that came to mind is, and it's just a thought to throw out there, but it's a big one, that what if the name of VBS changes? What if we don't call it VBS anymore, or Vacation Bible School? Because, it's a different world today, and there's nothing wrong with the Bible school other than, trying to get kids involved with that. So how can you look for ways to be able to market it with a different name that draws kids in, and look for technology ways to be able to include ways to be able to teach them through technology about Jesus and about all of those other kinds of things, but draw them in with those kinds of games. This year we had a musical, a play that the kids did, and they started marketing that. And that was a big one. We got other kids from that. We have a school that's right next door to Prescott United Methodist Church, so that helps some. We have a natural draw from that. But we also do shoes for the shepherd in the summertime, when we get lots of donations for that. And it's a tremendous amount of money that we bring in, that we provide shoes and bags and backpacks and things, that kind of stuff for kids to go back to school. And we do that it's actually a week from this Saturday, that we hand out shoe cards and all that kind of thing. So those kids know. So we market to that natural market where they come in for the shoes for the shepherd in the summertime to do that. But I just want to throw out a couple of ideas.
Thanks. So yeah, you can definitely start. It's a great idea to build a relationship with the schools in your neighborhood. Check to see what their publicity guidelines are, and to be able to advertise about your summer programs. Not all schools provide like paper flyers anymore for kids, but there's probably a site where they've got the linked electronic flyers for parents. So check in with your neighborhood school, see what guidelines they have, and then create your flyers to meet those guidelines. And of course, check their deadlines. All right. Oh, and then Chris mentioned in chat, so for those of you that are watching the recording, she reminded me of Raising Arizona Kids. That's a great resource. That's one of the places that I used to check when my kids were little. I couldn't remember the name of it, so thank you. All right. Well, if there isn't anything else, the other thing that I wanted to share about is just a FYI, if your pastor uses their dscumc.net for their as their personal email or whatever, they may not be aware that right now those email addresses are down. As far as I know, they have not been working since last week on Friday. And I've been working with our IT support, it's called the help desk, to get that fixed. In fact, I'm going to send one more test email as soon as I'm done with this meeting. They think that they have it resolved. So this will be test number 3. We'll see if it works this time. But yeah, so there was a prayer request that went out on Friday. If they're interested to learn about that, please have them email me. I can't advertise it publicly because this is part of the clergy covenant. And I will see if it's appropriate to resend that prayer request once the clergy emails are back up again. What else? That's it. So as usual, if you have any questions or ideas to share about future Tuesday talks or past topics that we've talked about, get in touch with me, Christina Dillabo, cdillabo@dscumc.org. And you can find some archives of the previous items if you go to the dscumc.org/communications page. You'll also get in the follow-up notes the link to the playlist of all of the recordings that we've ever had for Tuesday Talks. So you can also check that out. Thank you for joining me today. Keep yourself safe and cool, and I will see you next week.